we will have the largest ever national pandemic exercise that will test the UK's readiness for future pandemics.
The UK is preparing for another pandemic. So guess what? There's going to be another pandemic. Hello there, wherever you're watching this, get Rumble Premium so that we can speak freely to you about things like the government in the UK are running a pandemic exercise. For the next pandemic. Let's have a look at that announcement now.
The action plan brings together a range of policies. We have already set out our proposals to increase defence spending. We are earmarking £4.2 billion of funding for new flood defences. £370 million to secure the UK's telecom networks.
Maybe if we make this so fucking boring it's unwatchable, people won't pay attention to the fact that we're stealing more and more power. Good idea. Good idea. Let's bore them into compliance. Even that lady right behind him, whose job it is to care about this, looks like she could actually slide effortlessly into a coma and it would be a relief. Particularly if she's had any serious number of vaccines, because she's probably got myocarditis.
Opening a new Resilience Academy in North Yorkshire.
If you're in North Yorkshire, you're going to need a fucking Resilience Academy. No offence. Bit of offence.
That will train 4,000 people every year from both private and public sectors. And later this year, we will have the largest ever national pandemic exercise that will test the UK's readiness for future pandemics.
What do you mean, pandemic exercise? That's a Scottish accent, by the way, that you're listening to if you're an American and don't understand it. We're going to have a pandemic exercise, and what we're going to do is we're going to implement new power. Now, I bet that guy is all right, and he's a nice person, and he got into politics for all the right reasons. I bet he's got family, children, he's lovely, all of that kind of stuff. But what's happened is he's been captured by a completely corrupt system, and he's found himself, instead of representing the interests of his people, representing the interests of the state. How do you know that, Russell? Well, I've been paying attention. And if you were interested in democracy and freedom, you wouldn't be, as Keir Starmer has been, signing a treaty that grants further authority to the WHO. Have you ever looked into the origins of the WHO, what it was founded by, who it's founded by, who it's funded by? I'm not just talking about these days when it gets a lot of its money from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I'm not talking about the fact that their response to the pandemic was plainly organised to shut down independent media. One of the clauses and conditions in their new treaty is that they have the right to censor information and direct government censorship nationally. That's just one of the clauses. As well as one in your taxes and your compliance, they want the ability to control information. Why would that be? And why would Keir Starmer, at a time when his country clearly craves more independence, separation from Europe, separation from global bureaucracies or continental bureaucracies, be signing over national sovereignty to the WHO, who handled the last pandemic appallingly? How did the vaccines work? How did the lockdowns work? COVID's still among us, you know. People are getting it every day. No one's doing anything now. So does that mean we could have just ignored it in the first place? Yes, it does. You should have just been sensible. If someone's old and decrepit, look after them, keep them out of the way. If people want to get a vaccine, of course they can get a vaccine. And if they don't have to. Do you really believe that they're acting in your best interest? Who, let me know in the comments and chat, believes that they were acting in your best interest throughout the 2019 to 2022 era? Let me know. Not me, baby. Thankfully, I had enough cynicism, skepticism, and loathing of authority in me to ensure that I never took those damn medicines anyway. Here's the UK government saying that the WHO won't be allowed to mandate lockdowns. But do you trust them? Let me know in the comments and chat.
Very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. Will the Minister make a statement to the House about the ongoing negotiations on the World Health Organization Pandemic Agreement and the amendments to the international health regulations ahead of any votes at the World Health Assembly, which starts next week?
Well, thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I congratulate my honourable friend, the Member for Devizes, for securing this urgent question, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to update the House. I want to start by making three promises. First, the Government will only accept the accord and targeted amendments to the international health regulations if they are firmly in the United Kingdom's national interest, and no text has yet been agreed. We will only accept the accord and amendments by the World Health Assembly and adopt them if they are firmly in the UK's national interest to do so. Secondly, this Government will only sign up to measures that respect our national sovereignty. And third, under no circumstances Will we allow the WHO to have the power to mandate lockdowns? This would be unthinkable and has never been proposed.
Our system's stupider than yours, the way they have to stand up. Do you think it's peculiar, the green leather seats and the oak panelled walls? Do you know that those green leather seats appear in other environments and those oak panelled walls? Do you know they appear in certain types of schools and not others? Do you know that some people are used to rooms that look like that because their school looked like that? So some people, when they see rooms like that, people that grew up how I grew up, go, uh-oh, I'm in court because there's green leather seats and there's oak panelled walls. And other people go, I'm at school. I'm where I should be. Everything is working correctly. And other people are, oh no, I must be in trouble. Do you think that might be deliberate? Do you think these institutions and systems are designed right down to the level of interiors to make certain people feel comfortable and authorised and other people feel delegitimised and disempowered? Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. Here's a bit of reporting from John Fleetwood on Substack. This autumn, the United Kingdom will run Exercise Pegasus, the country's largest ever pandemic response exercise. Oh, thanks, Pegasus, the winged horse, a gift to Perseus, to allow him to fly mythically, to take on the Medusa, the snake-haired woman who one glance at will turn you to stone. Petrified, turned into a rock. Not made a rock by Christ like Peter was, no, but frozen into obedience and submission, exactly where they want you. The country's largest ever pandemic response exercise, after agreeing to an international pandemic accord that empowers the World Health Organization to recommend lockdowns. Did you vote for that? Let me know if you're British. Do you want the WHO in charge of your health, your parents' health, your children's health? Is that what you want? Because that's what you're going to get. You're getting it. They've already signed it away. Keir Starmer did it for you. The timing has sparked concerns that governments and international agencies may be coordinating future lockdown scenarios under the guise of preparedness, raising the spectre of another orchestrated pandemic event. The revelation comes as the US Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, remember them? Do you remember them and the Wuhan labs? Do you remember the funding that took place? Do you remember that American taxpayer dollars were used in the research that likely led to the lab leak that itself incited and caused the pandemic? Do you remember that? Do you remember that you're seeing the same acronyms, the same words, the same institutions, the same powers again and again? The Pentagon's Military Science Division prepares AI-driven simulations for pandemics caused by natural or man-made infectious agents. Why make that distinction? While simultaneously funding researchers who are now proposing to infect humans with aerialized influenza under the guise of improving disease models. Do you know what would be terrible? What? If we ever had aerialized influenza, it could destroy everything. That's a good point. That would destroy everything. What are you doing over there? Nothing? Are you making aerialized influenza? No, I'm making a PBJ, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Are you? No. It was aerialized influenza, and it was a surprise for your birthday, and you ruined it. You're just like your father. A lot of people don't realise that pork is one of the biggest sources of parasites in the world. Study after study prove it. The CDC says pork is the primary source of trichinosis infections worldwide. The WHO and CDC list pork as a top source for tapeworms and toxoplasmosis. But Emmanuel Macron lists pork as his hobby and his side piece. But you know why that would be. Brigitte. Research shows that pork has poor detox channels, making it easy for parasites to survive and pass to humans. If you eat pork or sushi, travel, have pets, are married to Brigitte Macron, or simply want to protect your gut and immune system, it's one more reason to do a targeted, medical-grade, full-body parasite cleanse at least once a year. That's why the wellness company, who I love, created their ivermectin plus mebendazole parasite cleanse. This uniquely powerful combination helps eliminate unwanted parasites and supports your immune system, digestion, and overall health. Fill out a quick intake form and get 4 usage supply medical-grade cleanses shipped straight to your door. Head to twc.health/brand and use the code BRAND to save $60 and get free shipping. In May, the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer signed the WHO treaty, which was designed to help the body coordinate the international response to any future pandemics. The treaty has wide-ranging implications for how the world would deal with a COVID-style outbreak, including by encouraging better disease surveillance and the sharing of vaccines and other medicines. Sounds to me like control of observation and the control to implement the use of medicines. Do you remember last time how they they blamed, how they shut down protests, how they condemned people that were opposed to vaccines. Do you remember? Well, this is the same people. It's a different government, but, it's the same. Doing the exact same thing as didn't work last time. Doing the exact same thing that didn't work 17 times before will be exactly what they're not expecting last time.
It will catch the watchful Hun totally off guard. Doing precisely what we've done 18 times before is exactly the last thing they'll expect us to do this time.
US President Donald Trump signed an executive order withdrawing the United States from the WHO, January 2025. What a good decision by Trump. Would you prefer that? That's what RFK and Trump have done. That is brilliant. We would, Epstein files, can we have them, please? All of these wars, can you stop them, please? Thank you for getting out of the WHO. Let me know if you agree with that in the comments and chat. But the Trump admin granted an exemption for bird flu meetings with the WHO. Oh, so it's going to be bird flu then. Weeks later, pharmaceutical giant Arcturus Therapeutics, which, let's face it, sounds evil. Sounds like that episode of The Simpsons where Hank Scorpio got Homer Simpson to work for him and run that new nuclear plant. We're just going to give over to the pharmaceutical giant Arcturus Therapeutics. What? An Arcturus Therapeutics let us down with their name so clearly sounds like an evil subterranean demon rising up to destroy us all. Well, if you can't trust Arcturus Therapeutics, who can you trust? They were granted fast-track designation from the FDA for a self-amplifying mRNA. That sounds good. One thing I learned about mRNAs during the pandemic was not that they migrate from the deltoid to the tissue around the heart, that they might cause neurological conditions. I learned they should be self-amplifying. Let them amplify themselves. Why should we wait around for someone else to amplify our mRNA? They could be amplifying themselves. USA! You self-amplify. You self-amplify. Avian influenza bird flu vaccine called ACT-2304, which, if you imagine Hitler saying it, doesn't sound as bad. ACT-2034! Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil! The following month, the US Department of Health and Human Services, the HHS, and the National Institution of Health announced the development of a next-generation universal vaccine platform called Generation Gold Standard that will focus on bird flu jab creation. Oh no! Jay Bhattacharya, Secretary Kennedy, help us! Despite language in the WHO treaty banning the organisation from explicitly ordering sovereign nations to impose authoritarian pandemic measures, which, by the way, you shouldn't need to ask people not to impose authoritarian measures, should you? I mean, isn't this meant to be the consent of the governed? Isn't that meant to be how America works? Shouldn't that be how all nations work? Shouldn't that be how politics work? Let me know in the comments and chat. It grants the WHO broad authority to recommend social measures like lockdowns through a binding framework. Oh, good. Thank God there's a binding framework that pressures member states to comply via national pandemic plans, global oversight bodies, and international coordination mechanisms. All that sounds like really restrictive political jiu-jitsu. I've got like the image of an anaconda just choking us out of freedom. The following articles in the treaty pave the way for coordinated WHO-endorsed lockdown scenarios across member states. Article 6.2. This clause requires countries to maintain social measures during pandemics, a term historically used to justify lockdowns, business closures, and school shutdowns. These are merely some social measures. What? You've shut down my business? You've shut down my kid's school? That was a social measure. It's social, and we measured it. We measured it using our bank balances and actually our own penises. Article 1C IV. By defining a pandemic emergency as one that demands a whole of government and whole of society response, the treaty lays groundwork for sweeping national mandates aligned with international directives. Article 4.4. The treaty gives the WHO's Conference of the Parties the authority to craft and issue lockdown-style recommendations that are expected to shape national policy. Articles 15.1 and 15.4. These articles obligate nations to develop ongoing pandemic response plans, including during inter-pandemic periods. That's all the time. So if there's not a pandemic, you're in an inter-pandemic period. All we want is control when there is a pandemic. Yeah. And when there isn't one. Isn't that all of the time? Yeah, that's right. Making lockdown-style preparedness into permanent policy. Article 16.1. Governments are told to control pandemic-related information which may be used to suppress dissent. So maybe if you were a dissenting voice, you might expect there to be terrifying consequences. No, they'd never do that. This is the government. This is the WHO. This is the media. This is the Trusted News Initiative. These are organisations that can think for you. Shut up. Do as you're told. Take your medicine. And if necessary, sacrifice your children. Governments are told to control pandemic-related information which may be used to suppress dissent and enforce lockdown narratives under the banner of science-based information. But science is an ongoing conversation that never ends. There are arguments, counter-arguments, narratives, counter-narratives, and clinical trials. Remember, the clinical trials that are likely to take place are the ones that are funded. And the ones that are funded are likely to be the ones that are profitable. Unless we are able to divorce the power of the pharmaceutical industry absolutely from regulatory bodies that must be objective enough to control them. That's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. Articles 19.5 and 6. The treaty establishes a global compliance mechanism. It's just a global compliance mechanism. What's your problem? Doesn't that sound a lot like a new world order with total authority, centralized, the kind of thing that Satan would lay massaging his scaly penis over? Can't you imagine Satan on his back saying, all it is a global control measure, ejaculating into his own venomous mouth? Imagine it. Enables the WHO to pressure countries into adopting its preferred policies. We'd prefer it if you did everything we told you. Or we'd prefer a massive global revolution, including lockdowns through implementation reviews and international coordination. So there you have it. By making these things boring, you can defer or control to the evil one, who clearly, behind a veil of bureaucracy, is manipulating global events for maximal control. And unless you oppose this with all of your being, which might include your death at some point, we will not win this glorious battle, which is to make straight the path for his return. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and the chat? Remember, we stream on Rumble at these times every day, and if you get Rumble Premium, you can join us live for these conversations. Thanks for watching the video. Have a look at this one over here, or join us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on Rumble.